Good day. I am Lieutenant Commander Kelly Armstrong, and I am a Victims Legal Counsel. Victims Legal Counsel are attorneys that provide legal counsel for victims of sexual assault. That means that we can meet with and discuss the legal process, questions, and concerns with those that have made a restricted or unrestricted report of sexual assault, or are contemplating making a report of sexual assault and have questions about the process. Generally speaking, those eligible for our services are active duty, dependents, and reservists, and retirees under certain circumstances, and some overseas Department of Navy civilians. Our representation entails forming an attorney-client relationship so that we have confidentiality in our communications. This means that our clients have their own representation to assist them in navigating a sometimes complex and often very confusing legal process. Prior to VLC being established in 2013, there were government attorneys that advised commands and prosecuted cases. And then you had the defense attorneys that represented those that are accused of offenses. Prior to 2013, the only attorney that victims of crimes were provided was a government attorney that would potentially prosecute any offenses under the UCMJ. Sometimes, what are now our clients under the VLC program would have concerns that they would get in trouble for some of their conduct surrounding the sexual assault. They may have been minor drinking or fraternizing or engaging in an adulterous relationship or violation of some order with the barracks rules or a curfew. One of the concerns was that those issues would deter some reporting due to the fear that they would get in trouble for that collateral misconduct. Since the only attorney that they had prior to 2013 was the prosecuting attorney, they had no one to discuss those concerns with and assist them in their decision to make a report of a sexual assault. So VLC was established to provide them with that counsel to assist them from the beginning of stages of making the report through the final action on the sexual assault. Once the attorney-client relationship has been established, the communications and questions for the victim will come to the Victims Legal Counsel and not directly to the client. That means that all law enforcement inquiries, trial counsel, and defense counsel questions and communications will come through the VLC representing their client. Oftentimes, this is the single aspect of representation that provides significant relief to the clients. It offers them the opportunity to focus on themselves and their healing, while their attorney is the single source of contact with them regarding the investigation and the legal process. So what does this mean? It means that once the attorney-client relationship is established, the Victims Legal Counsel will represent them in the process and assist them in ensuring that their crime victim bill of rights are respected and enforced. They ensure that their privacy is protected and that they are treated with dignity and respect throughout the process. As their attorney, the VLC assists them by attending the NCIS investigative interview with them. During the interview, the VLC can provide legal representation to the client, taking breaks during the interview to have confidential communication if the client has questions. As this is the initial stage where the information will be fully reported to the investigator, it is best to have the VLC present so that the attorney can represent the client more effectively by having a full understanding of what has been reported to law enforcement. However, VLC services can be sought even after initial report and interview have been completed. During the investigative process, the Victims Legal Counsel continues to monitor the progress of the investigation and assist the client with providing additional information requested by NCIS. In providing this additional information to NCIS, the VLC also provides updates to the client. Once the investigation is complete or significantly completed, the investigators send a report of the investigation to the attorneys responsible to review and make the legal recommendation. The attorneys at the Region Legal Service Office in the area of responsibility will receive that report. Upon receipt, they review the report and make a recommendation to the offender's command for disposition of the case. This is another opportunity for the victim to be heard in the process. The attorneys at the Region Legal Service Office will contact the VLC to coordinate a meeting with the victim. If the victim is still interested in participating, the meeting will be scheduled to discuss the role of those attorneys in the process. During the meeting or shortly thereafter, the victim will have the opportunity to provide their input on how they would like to see the case disposed of and whether they are willing to testify under oath at trial. If they are willing to testify, then the attorneys will make a recommendation as to whether the case is disposed of at a trial by court-martial or an administrative proceeding such as a non-judicial punishment or administrative separation. If the attorneys believe that the case is appropriate for trial, that the evidence meets that high standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, then the willingness of the victim to testify under oath exists. They may make a recommendation for the offender's command to take that case to trial by court-martial, either a general court-martial or a special court-martial. Both a general and a special court-martial are federal court proceedings and will potentially result in a federal conviction. A general court-martial is a felony-level court, while a special court-martial is a misdemeanor-level court. If the attorneys determine that the evidence does not support a likely success at trial, or the witness is not interested in testifying, then they may make a recommendation for an administrative disposition, such as non-judicial punishment or administrative separation. Those processes have a lower burden of proof and do not require my client's testimony. In some cases, upon review of the evidence, there may be a recommendation that no further action be taken. These recommendations by the RILSO are sent to the offender's command and include the input of my client as to the impact on their life and their desired process for the disposition of the case. The commands take this input very seriously and want to hear from the victims if they choose to provide input. Civilian jurisdiction versus military jurisdiction. They're different jurisdictions. The VLC program allows for a much more expansive ability to represent clients in the military system. This includes the ability to be heard on the record on certain issues during the trial proceeding. The VLC can represent victims during those military court proceedings. However, VLC are not allowed to represent clients in courts in civilian courts. Simply stated, the attorneys cannot address the court, but they still can provide assistance and understanding in the process by answering questions for their clients. So while the role of the court system is limited, significantly limited in the civilian court system, the VLC can still provide answers and assistance to be helpful in the process. Oftentimes, after an assault, the environment in which the assault occurred is no longer healthy for the victim, personally or professionally. Maybe the assault occurred in a location that cannot be avoided on daily routines, the offender is located in that same location or at the same command, and encounters are too unavoidable. The desire to be closer to a stronger support network while going through the legal process may also make a different geographical location healthier for them, and therefore a transfer out of that area might be in the best interest of that sailor. The expedited transfer process is the process that is established to allow victims of qualifying sexual assaults to execute temporary or permanent orders to a different command or geographical area. The request to transfer goes to the commanding officer for endorsement and then on to PERS. Upon receipt of the request by the commanding officer, he or she has 72 hours to endorse it and send it on to PERS for processing. In order to protect the privacy of the requester, there is one person currently assigned at PERS to work on all expedited transfer requests. PERS will typically turn around an expedited transfer request in 5 to 10 business days. The orders will be for an immediate move. Because of the nature of the request, the PCS happens very quickly, and the requesters need to start preparing for the move when they submit the request. Military protective orders are often part of a process after a report of sexual assault has been made. A military protective order is issued by the offender's commanding officer and provides a no contact with the victim, to include third party and social media contact. The protective orders are a means to ensure that the victim is not being threatened or harassed by the offender. Violations of the MPO can be handled immediately by the offender's commanding officer to ensure continued safety of the victim. Requesting, monitoring, and ensuring that the military protective orders do not lapse is another way in which the VLC can represent a client. At every step in this process, the client has options for their participation and involvement. With the limited requirement that they testify if the case proceeds at trial, they can decide not to participate or to discontinue their participation in the process at any time if they choose. If the case goes to trial, it will only go to trial if they are willing to testify. It is important for them to understand that just because they've made a report, they have many choices and opportunities, but they are their choices, and nobody will require their participation. Hopefully, I have provided you with some helpful information about a program that is relatively new but is incredibly beneficial to those that find themselves facing the decision of reporting a sexual assault or navigating the process. This program provides incredible services to assist in that process and help those involved make decisions to take care of their needs, personally and professionally. So if you or someone you know has questions or desires more information about the Victims Legal Counsel program or representation, contact your local sexual assault coordinator, the DoD Safe Helpline, or Victims Legal Counsel office in your area. Thank you for your time.